Hi, S7. If you're watching this, you're watching Chemistry Catch Up. So what you need to do is you need to watch this revision clip, do any activities during the video I tell you, and then after you finished, I would like you to do the quiz on your email, and then hopefully you should get a better score than you did first time round. So it'd be best if you have a pen and paper handy to do any activity. So if you haven't got one, grab one now. So we're going to do a revision lesson on atoms and elements. And in this clip, you're going to learn what atoms and elements are. So as a starter task, do you guys know what the three states of matter are? So for example, one of the states is liquid. Can you think of the other two? What are the other two? Well done if you said solid and gases. Okay, so can you guys draw a diagram of how the particles inside a solid, liquid, and a gas would look? Okay, so you can draw yourself three boxes, and in the first one, okay, you can draw a solid. For example, that would be, a rock would be a solid. You can draw the particle diagram. I will start it off for you. So, okay, you'd have the atoms. Okay, this is a very bad circle, but let me get a neat one. Okay, so the atoms can be represented as circles, and in a solid, they're very close together. Okay, and you can pause that and complete it yourself. So this first box, solid. The second box should be liquid, and the third box is a gas. So pause the video, have a go at what you think the atoms how the atoms inside each state is arranged. Right, hopefully you've had a go at that. So if you did that correctly, for a solid, all the particles would have been regularly arranged and close together, almost touching. So something like this. I can continue to fill that up. With a liquid, the atoms are slightly more spread apart, okay, and they're randomly arranged, and they're able to move past each other, because that's why liquids can flow. Okay, and then a gas. Okay, what do you think is the arrangement of gas particles? Well, if you said they're spread very far apart, you are right. So they're spread very far apart, and they move in random directions. Okay. Can you think of examples of each state of matter for a solid, liquid, and a gas? Okay. So what you could do is you can draw yourself a quick table. Okay. So one column. Okay. This column here can be solid. You can write down solid. Here you can write liquid. Here you can write gas. Can you think of examples? So, an example of a solid would be, for example, a rock, a pencil, anything that's solid to touch. Example of a liquid, we could say water, Coca-Cola, any types of fluids. Example of a gas, okay, you can say the air, for example, helium, hydrogen. The gases that are found in the air, you could give any of those examples. Right, so we need to learn what atoms and elements are. So first of all, if you guys imagine a block of cheese. Now, if we were to cut that block of cheese in half, okay, and then we were to keep on cutting the block of cheese in half again, and let's say if we carried on keep cutting the block of cheese into half many times, okay, do you think we can keep on chopping the block of cheese an infinite amount of times forever, and it gets smaller and smaller forever? Or do you think at some point there will be the smallest particle that we can't cut anymore? So if we were to carry on cutting the cheese to the smallest possible particle, then eventually we would get to what is known as an atom. Okay, so an atom is basically the smallest particle of an element that we can no longer basically divide or cut in half again. Okay, so atoms are the smallest particle of an element that can exist. An element are substances, materials, for example, copper, gold, helium, etc. Okay, so you can take notes of the following. So atoms are the smallest particle of an element that can exist, and an element is a substance which is only made up of one type of atom. Okay, so copper is an example of an element, and copper is only made up of copper atoms. It's only made up of one type of atom. Do you think the element copper can contain any other types of atoms mixed with it? For example, can it contain silver or gold? The answer is no. The element copper can only have copper atoms, can only have one type of atom that makes it up. Look at the next element, carbon. Okay, so carbon, again, is another element, and carbon is made up of only carbon atoms. It's not made up of any other type of atom. Okay. Similarly, helium is made of only helium atoms. So an element is a substance that is only made up of one type of atom. You can note that down and you can remember that for your quiz to come. Okay, this is the periodic table. So in total, we have 118 different elements, and each element has different properties. So for example, we have Au, which is gold, we have Ag, which is silver, we have oxygen up here. So all of these are different elements, and there's in total is 118 of them. So the next thing we need to know is what a molecule is. So a molecule is two or more atoms joined together. Okay, so here we have a helium atom by itself. This is not a molecule. The next one here, what is this molecule made up of? It's made up of two hydrogen atoms. So because there's two atoms, at least two or more atoms, it's considered a molecule. And this is H2 because there's two of them. Here we see an oxygen molecule because we have more than one oxygen atom bonded together. We've got a chlorine molecule. We can get bigger molecules. For example, O3 is 3 oxygens bonded together, or S8 is a much larger molecule of 8 sulfurs bonded together. So a molecule is two or more atoms joined together. You can take a note of that and remember it. So a quick check, what goes inside the gap? What I want you to do is I want you to cover the notes that you made. I want you to read through these sentences and test yourself, see if you know what goes inside the gap. So an atom is the smallest something of an element that can exist. So the missing word here is particle. It's the smallest particle of an element that can exist. Remember, you're not looking at your notes. Try to remember it. An element is a substance made up of only something type of atom. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Well done if you said 1. So it's made up of only one type of atom. A molecule is two or more atoms joined together. Okay, it can be two or more of any type of atom. So they can be different atoms bonded together, or the same atoms to make a molecule. So what is this a diagram of? Can you guys know what this is a diagram of? Have you ever seen this picture before? This is a diagram of an atom, okay, which is the smallest particle that we can no longer cut, that we were talking about before. So an atom is made up of smaller particles known as subatomic particles. So it's made up of protons, made up of neutrons, and it's made up of electrons as well. So in the middle here, we have the nucleus. So the middle part is the nucleus, and It is made up of neutrons, which is these small blue particles, and it's also made up of protons, which are these green positive particles. Now, I did say that atoms are the smallest particles that, and we can't, no longer, cut an atom smaller than that. And even though we can't, cut an atom is actually made up of even smaller particles known as subatomic particles, the protons, neutrons, and the electrons. The electrons are on the outside of the nucleus, and they basically go around the nucleus the same way planets go around the sun. Okay, and then we have an electron shell, which the electrons basically move along that path and whiz round in a circle. So this is a diagram of an atom. So the number of protons inside a nucleus is important. The number of protons tells us which element the atom is made up from. So the protons are the green positive particles, and the number of those basically determines which element the substance is. Okay, is it gold? Is it silver? Number of protons will tell us that. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a look at this diagram. Try to remember it as best as you can. Have a look at the labels. Try to remember. And then what I would like you to do now is I would like you can sketch your own diagram of an atom. So you can copy the diagram on the screen. I'm going to cover up the labels. Okay, so I want you to sketch this preferably using a pencil, because it's going to be much neater. And then, based on the label diagram that you saw before, I want you to, using these keywords over here, I want you to try and label from memory as much as you can. So pause the video, sketch this, try to label as much as you can, and then you can press play. Okay, so make sure you've labeled these blue particles, neutrons, these positive particles, protons with a plus sign, and around the outside we have electrons with a negative sign on them. Okay, so this is the end of the revision video. What I would like you to do now is I want you to go back to the email I sent you. I want you to attempt the form. There's a link to a forms quiz. I want you to click on that, and I want you to have a go on that. You can use this video if you're not sure about some of the questions, you can refer back to this video to help you. You can also refer to BBC Bitesize or Google to help you as well. Okay, so thank you very much, Year 7. This is the end of the video.